Welcome back to Tired Old Queen at the Movies. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. If you want to be notified every time a new video comes out, hit that bell notification. And now let's go see the Tired Old Queen at the Movies, Steve HAYES.
Oh, Johnny, won't you come in? Johnny, let's do a musical. And you know what? We've never done a James Cagney film, so I thought I'd do my favorite James Cagney film, 1942's Yankee Doodle Dandy, directed by Michael Curtiz and starring James Cagney, Joan Leslie, Walter Huston, Rosemary DeCamp, and Jeannie Cagney. This is based on the life of the legendary Broadway performer George M. Cohan. He was the quintessential song and dance man in the early years of the 20th century. He was a little dynamo. He came out of vaudeville. He had a vaudeville-trained family, mom, dad, sisters. They all were in on the act. The father always had a trademark line that he used to send off every night at the act, and Cohan adapted it for himself. So when Cohan sort of became the star of the show, and he kept working with his parents all the way through until they dropped, he would always say,
"My mother thanks you. My father thanks you. My sister thanks you. And I thank you."
The plot of the movie is like this, you know, he grows up, he's got to shove his family, he becomes a star, he's a little dynamo as a kid, he gets older, he meets a girl, he falls in love, he marries her.
Oh, George.
Take that up an octave.
George.
Better.
He writes this song, he has setbacks, he has a flop, he has a hit, he keeps going, his father dies, it's a family drama, and then it's all told in flashback when he goes to visit President Roosevelt, and Roosevelt asks him about his history in showbiz, Mr. Cohan, and this is what happens.
I was a pretty cocky kid those days, a pretty cocky kid.
Cagney came out to Hollywood from the stage. He'd done vaudeville, he was a song and dance guy, he did musicals early on. And then he got cast in Public Enemy, and it changed his whole image. It was the era of the great gangsters, and there were no better two gangsters, and both were at Warner Brothers, than Edward G. Robinson and Jimmy Cagney. Jimmy Cagney was an extraordinary natural actor. He really listened. His actions, his reactions were all so natural. Years later, Laurence Olivier was being touted as the great actor from in some interview when he was in America. And Olivier stopped the interviewer and said, no, you've got Cagney.
Not bad for a first reading.
Betty Davis and Jimmy Cagney just fought the studio the whole time that they were there. He was constantly going on suspension for not doing films.
You're fired. You're canceled. You're washed up.
He could do anything, and yet they were just trying to pigeonhole him, always trying to pigeonhole him.
Pounding the pavement so long my socks have bunions.
Well, when this one rolled around, he jumped at the chance to play this part. He really wanted to do it.
Because he's the whole darn country squeezed into one pair of pants.
George M. Cohan had a very unique style of tap dancing. It was like stiff-legged tap dancing. Everybody, since this movie, has always thought that that was Cagney's way of doing it. It wasn't. He studied Cohan, and he adapted that sort of stiff-walked way of dancing. And, Cagney was a tiny guy, but he could go up walls. He would dance up walls and turn while he was on the wall and come back dancing down. Cohan wrote a show, which they do, it's the famous number in this, called Little Johnny Jones, which is sort of known as the first American musical. And that's where he sang, "I'm a Yankee Doodle dandy, a Yankee Doodle do or die.
A real live nephew of my Uncle Sam.
Born on the 4th of July." He would go back and forth to sing.
That's why they call him the Yankee Doodle Boy.
He meets Joan Leslie, his wife. Her name is Mary. And he writes this very famous song about her. Oh, it was Mary, Mary, plain as any name can be. He was just wonderful.
When they look at you singing that song and then look at me looking at you, they'll know.
There are times in this movie, like his father dies, Walter Huston, Walter Huston, please. One of the great, great, great actors.
There she goes, stealing the scene again.
We saw him most recently in Dodsworth. Got an Oscar for Treasure of the Sierra Madre. He was just quintessential great actor. actor. And Cagney loved working with him, and their scenes together as father and son are so poignant. And I defy you not to get a tear in your eye when Walter Huston dies.
Make a speech.
Mm-hmm. I thank them for us.
It's Warner Brothers kind of at its best because it just pops along so nicely. It was directed by one of the great versatile directors in motion picture history, Michael Curtiz. He could do anything. He did Errol Flynn Swashbucklers. He did Robin Hood. He did Casablanca. He did Yankee Doodle Dandy, and he did Mildred Pierce, almost back to back. And then he would turn around and do Doris Day's first musical, Romance on the High Seas. He was just the most amazing director, although you couldn't understand him half the time. When he spoke, he was very gullible.
I won't be in the theater to find out. I will be on the street watching a musical comedy.
There's a famous story that David Niven calls one of his autobiographies, Bring on the Empty Horses, because there was a quote by Curtiz, and he wanted the soldiers who'd been killed and the horses had just come in. He goes, bring on the empty horses. That was one of his cues. But he was versatile. He could do it all. This movie is about a light, sincere patriotism that you don't see a lot in films anymore. It was also during the war and the war effort, and it was a great, they sent this movie overseas, and it just was a huge hit with the soldiers and sailors.
Everybody sing!
There's a very famous scene near the end of the movie when he tells the story in flashback. He's gone to see President Roosevelt, and he starts down the stairs, and he does a little tap dance, Cagney, as he's going down the White House steps. It's just this beautiful, intricate little tap dance. And it says everything about Cohan and everything about Cagney as a performer. And Cagney improvised that. On the spot, just did it. And it's one of the scenes you walk away and you always remember it. He won the Academy Award for this, and so deservedly. You can't beat James Cagney, Walter Huston, Rosemary DeCamp, lovely little Joan Leslie, and Jeannie Cagney, and Michael Curtiz's spectacular biography, Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Let's all go to the lobby.
Oh, Johnny, we've never done most of the people that we did.